morning, everybody. Thanks for joining in for this session on democratizing the classroom world over. It's my absolute pleasure to be here with Neeru. What you've seen in the video is a tutor as well as a learning aid, as well as tools for teachers as well as students in terms of improving learning outcomes, not just in one geography, but at world and at scale. And this is what we would want to learn more about in this conversation. I've spoken to Neeru before, and what struck me, one of the first sentences she mentioned to me was, there are certain non-negotiables in learning, right? And that we need to be aware of, and that education is not a zero-sum game. So with that, could you just share your perspective behind coming up with this CK12 initiative, Neeru, and that your assessment of the current education system?
Yes, thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure. I've been working on this for 17 years and building from zero digital presence for K-12 to much more contextualized, personalized, customizable content, as well as learning for students and teachers to give assistance to teachers who can deeply understand what the student's doing. Imagine if we had not just few students who come out as top students, but every one of them came out with, learning. They knew what to do, how to learn. So one of the things that we actually thought about as we were building this was really what are some of the things that are very crucial for all of us, whether we're children or not, to do about learning. And that is, there are certain non-negotiables you cannot do anything about. One of them is, having access. Then secondly, that access has to be in context to your level. Thirdly, there are things like we know from brain science and cognitive sciences that you have to learn to repeat things. You have to practice, you have to be taught or shown something, and then you go about further learning. And those are the things that we've been very mindful of as we built this system. So the back end is very sophisticated. It isn't just any particular technology that's come along. We've taken the best things from each technology and made it work. The current system,
sure.
just to kind of finish that question, the current system only is able to identify on the surface what each student can or does know. A teacher cannot, how many are you? 50 of you here? I don't know what you're making of what I'm saying here. So imagine young kids as they're sitting there, and the teacher doesn't know where everything's happened except by standardized tests. And those are moment in time. So we are trying to change that and give real in-depth information to the teacher so they can help each student to learn.
In fact, there's a stark statistic, ASER study came out last week, which talks about in the context in India, where 50% of grade 5 students are unable to read or do mathematics of second grade standards.
Right.
So there's a huge gap in terms of learning outcomes. So how would an initiative like this aid in terms of bridging that?
Well, from the very get-go, we started with customization. Even long before anyone else was doing this, 17 years ago, we brought out created textbooks, which we termed flexbooks. And these flexbooks were part of each teacher could customize to their need. Each student, parents, you can, tutor, could customize to the need of any student. Districts, states could create their versions. We have over, I would say, 300 and some 50,000 flex books created, not just in the US and 50 states, but also in India, in countries, Spanish-speaking countries, in many other countries, Philippines, Thailand. You know, we didn't even do any advertising. We spent no money on marketing. But, you know, it's the idea spoke to teachers. Idea spoke to leaderships that this is what needs to happen. And that's where we started building and creating this custom profile for students and to give them what they needed. I'm a big believer in not just learning, but actually applying it so that that's when a student feels. So everything I don't know if you guys saw the video, but there is this step-by-step conversations happening with the tutor who's available to the student 24/7, and they can, you know, kind of, as they're learning, use that as their mentor. Their parents may not be able to help them. So for us, it's all about a holistic product.
So you mentioned about personalization or talking individually to each student, but how are curricula designed or standardized, right? So
Yeah.
in that context, and given that teachers are a very important stakeholder in
Yeah.
this initiative,
Yes.
how did you navigate that change in terms of changing the teachers, their attitude?
Let me tell you a story. So when we started, my husband, who's a big technologist, believes technology, and my co-founder, who also was technologist, both of them got together and said, we can solve this problem by creating technology. And I said, guys, no, you can't do that. You need a payload. He said, well, there's Wikipedia and there's all this other stuff online. I said, no. For foundational learning, you need very specific content that can teach each kid. So, and I also said, hey, you guys, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to start crying. And guess what happened? They listened. And today they go, you know, today it's like, it's the best thing we did. Create that content so we could, you know, offer it to every child, every student, teacher for free to customize, to do what they need to do rather than depending on just, here's what you have to do, here's the test, make sure the students do well in the test. So we did a very purposeful product.
And along the conversation, beyond personalization, you also mentioned about learning happens through passion.
Yes.
Now, in terms of providing this access to students who might not have access to inspiring learning environments, how does the CK12 or your technology-enabled initiative help bridge that?
You know, when we created this product, till 2012 we had zero. We had very minimal usage. But my thoughts have always been about long term. 2012, when President Obama said every school, every child, K-12, is going to have a device and connectivity, our usage went up the roof. From 2012 to 2015, we trained teachers. We did webinars, we did all kind of work with them so they could be not afraid and not be, oh, this is a foreign thing. No, this is about teacher, this is about students, this is about curriculum. Those are the three major products we created. And today, that's the big, you know, the heart, along with adaptive practice, which kind of manages to bring it up or down depending on the student. So that work has ended up in 317 million users. That work has given us billions of questions answered, hundreds of millions of assignments that teachers have created that have given us the capability and the knowledge to figure out what needs to happen to each person. I'm here in India and I've visited every day a different state. And I am so thrilled that most states are wanting to sign a MOU. It's not just that we've slapped on a large language model or a generative AI. We've actually created a vertical. And that vertical is specifically for students of K-12. And this is where the ASR report you're talking about, if I can go to that report and say, this is where you need to be. You're forgetting way back there that how these words combine or how as you're adding, multiplying, what are the steps you're missing? So we are not giving them just the answers. We are saying to them, think about it. And the moment they go, oh, I see, engagement goes up. I tell my team, send me all the conversations that students are having with Flexi, the AI tutor. That was the last missing component of teaching and learning. We didn't know what was in the mind of these students deeply. With AI and with all the reinforcement learning, all the technologies that we've gone through, we have put together a way to tell the teachers exactly where the student is. If we can tell that student, this is where you're getting stuck, and systematically bring them up, you can't stop them.
Okay. So on that note, maybe we have time for two class questions. Over the past 17 years, you mentioned about impacting over 370 students across countries, across languages.
Right.
What kept you mission-driven, and what kept you going all these years?
A lot of it has to do with your teams. If anything that you're doing, if people truly believe in what you're talking about and the mission is right. I mean, now we're going to the space. We're going wherever because people believe in that. So similarly, people believe that we can why should we leave so many students behind when we have the capability to change that? And education is always the last field to kind of bring in this innovation technologies because they are afraid. We can't be afraid. We need to learn what's wrong. Take care of those mistakes. Take care of hallucinations. And that's where we have teachers. That's where we have the curriculum, that we can actually do that for students rather than for the whole population, for the whole world. We've got to build these verticals that, even the LLM providers are saying, build your verticals, because they'll take care of all the unknowns that a general purpose AI can't.
And you've worked with governments, you've worked with agencies, global agencies as well. Could you share an example of an impact at scale where CK12 was involved in?
I'll tell you a recent story. We've worked with Georgia, country of Georgia. We've worked with a lot of these states. So I'm not going to talk about where we've worked with the Department of Education. They created the content. We built the intelligence on top. But, the most amazing thing happened when I went to Bangalore on this trip. They brought in a principal, and she showed me that for 1.5 years, since Flexi's come out, that they started using Flexi. And they started collecting data. She had been just sitting on it. She had no idea what was happening. And with that data, we are seeing that the grades are moving. If you think grade A is on the left and the fail is on the right, we see a huge, very impressive shift happening in grades. Now, everyone can't be A's. That's how the system is set up for people to fail in education, because everyone can't be A's. But we can move them so they can not lose confidence in themselves, don't lose that they can contribute to society themselves, right? So those are very, very critical things. And I'm happy to say it's working. And we've seen it on our own system. Within few questions, 2 to 4 questions, we can tell what grade, what level this child is at. With that, we actually help 80% confidence boost. So these are early stages. We cannot assess the way we've been assessing because if the media is changing, assessment systems have to change to measure what's happening with the new system. Keeping the non-negotiables in mind takes time. It has to be internalized. You have to show by producing something, right? These are basics that we can't forget.
On that note, Neeru, we are out of time as well. Thanks a lot for the wonderful conversation and the impact that you're doing at CK12.
Thank you.